lot of things. And in my presentation, like the flow is that we will be discussing about ICTs and Digital India, then the Sustainable Development Goals in Digital India, and then I'll be talking about the case study of Haq Darshak and a small analysis of the case study, followed by the conclusion and recommendations. So ICTs and Digital India, like the government of India, they launched this national e-governance plan in 2006 by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And the main, and followed by this, Digital India was launched in 2015. The main aim of launching Digital India was to develop citizen-centric e-services, which includes information for all, electronic public services. And because of the launch of Digital India, there was not just the exponential growth in service providers of internet and telephone, but also the subscribers also increased. And with all these services and subscribers, India has improved its digital competitiveness ranking to like 44th position, and India has also participated in a lot of conferences and also hosted a lot of conferences related to technology, big data, and e-governance. So next, I'll be talking about sustainable development goals in digital India. So the main aim of these sustainable development goals was to like achieve progress across social, economic, and environmental pillars. And to achieve these pillars, government of India has like a lot of welfare schemes on state and central level to improve the economic growth, infrastructure development, and industrialization. So these schemes are already available by the government of India, but there are some challenges to like access these schemes. Most of these schemes, there is no one repository for these schemes. Inclusion of everyone is very difficult because India is a very big country. The size is huge, and then there are schemes at state level, then there are schemes at central level, and also these processes are designed in a very centralized manner, where things are very top to down and the indigenous knowledge is not like included. And because a lot of people are still not able to like access internet, there are problems with the access to internet, and technology is still very complex. The people are not adapted, the technology is not accepted in a lot of areas. So that is also one of the issues. And most of the people in India are digitally illiterate, and also there is a lot of red tapeism in the systems and processes. So all these issues, like even though there is this huge scheme of Digital India, and there are a lot of things that have come up, but this has created not this has kind of like bridged the digital divide, but also increased the information divide, because everything is available on internet, but the people are not able to access that. And so what this organization Haq Darshak is doing is that it's a social impact organization founded in 2016 with the aim to like bring social welfare schemes at the doorsteps of people. They are using three prong approach, where they have used this technology, artificial intelligence based technology. They have a team of researchers who have like done a deep research on state and central and local schemes, and they have formed a repository. They have also translated these schemes in local languages, so there is like a common repository, and they have put all these schemes together in a so they have a mobile based application and a web based platform, where if you put like some credentials of yours, the the artificial intelligence based system, it allows you to access these schemes, like it tells you what schemes are for you. So that is the technology part. How Haq Darshak is implementing this is through partnerships. So Haq Darshak has partnered with some state government, some organizations like Bill and Melinda Gates, Google, and through their CSR activities. And also Haq Darshak has channelized the importance of local organizations, local CSOs who are working on ground to have direct reach to these people. And there is a social entrepreneurship angle to this, because the main aim is to reduce poverty, bring these social welfare schemes to the people. And also, I mean, one of the reasons why Hagdarshak was founded was because a lot there are social welfare schemes, they are available, but there was evidence which showed that these the budget which was allocated to these social welfare scheme was going underutilized. And and at one point at one hand we are saying that the budget is underutilized, on the other hand we are saying that people are still poor. So there is like a gap in between, and Hagdarshak tried to resolve this gap with this technology part and partnership part and social entrepreneurship part. So with the operations, Hagdarshak has they have their operations in 20 Indian states, and they have also trained like over 6,000 village level entrepreneurs, and their outreach is 0.23 million, and out of which 0.11 million are rural, and around 8,000 are urban people. And then the applications which were done through Hagdarshak, the social welfare schemes which were assessed through Hagdarshak, they have received like benefits of more than 100,000 million people have received the benefits, out of which like 43% were male, 56% were female, and zero point 0.04 were from third gender. So they have been able to generate the value of 590 millions rupees that was going to be underutilized or not utilized if traditional systems were followed. And through their work, Hagdarshak has also focused on like sustainable development goals. So they have there is inclusion, there is use of technology, there is partnership for goals. So these were the things that Hagdarshak has focused. But there is also like some limitations which Hagdarshak has experienced. One is that their revenue model, like Hagdarshak has this scheme, and there are two models which they follow. One is like they
Komal, sorry for the interruption. You just have 2 minutes left.
sure. So they just so the limitations is their revenue model, because they have some major three major funders, and some of these schemes were designed like way long back, maybe before independence. So they need more data, and also government is a very important partner, and there is a lot of red tapeism, like a lot of paperwork, which doesn't allow Akdarshak to partner with government a lot. So I'm just concluding this presentation, where social welfare schemes are very important, and technology, we can't like deny that technology is going to be the future, but we still have not reached that stage where we can depend just solely on the technology, because there are a lot of people who will be excluded. So there should be a combination of social innovation, technology, and so that the flagship program of government of India, Digital India, they should include like partnership should be one of their important goals, to include everyone. And also we should not underestimate the power of CSO, society organizations, who have a better outreach to the bottom of pyramid. They understand their issues. And as a recommendation, we would also like to focus on the open data, these policies. And also this brings to like the last point, that data privacy is very important. So if we are doing a lot of these kind of things, data privacy, the policies should focus a lot on data privacy. And open data can also open doors for local companies and entrepreneurs to experiment in like health services and everything else. Like, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, fine. Your paper is good. It's giving information about Hagdarshak, lot of information,
Right.
and it's very motivating as well. But can you tell me how does it connect with the theme of the conference, like this paper?
So the theme of the conference was ICT for sustainable development, and Hagdarshak is using like the ICT tools. There is information that is being passed, and there is communication and technology. The technology is their mobile and web-based services. They are using artificial intelligence to create that database, and so that if I just put my credentials that I'm 30-year-old, I'm studying, I'm a student, and I am from like this particular category, like general or scheduled tribe or something. So it gives me that whole database of what schemes that are available for me, and also it is
Okay,
available.
as per my suggestion, excuse me, as per
Right.
my suggestion, since it's a research paper on this, ICT technologies, so you should, you can also incorporate in the next paper, like the model which you are using at the Haq Darshak, and what are the limitations or what are the issues are there in the model, and how you are using that model. So some ICT should be there when you are presenting a paper on ICT.
Right.
It's simply a paper on some concept and some motivational something
Right.
like that on Haq Darshak. We are doing something for the poor people. It's very nice.
Right.
So वो ठीक है. As a philosophical, as a psychological, it is very nice. But when we come to the technology, there must be some technology part also involved. If you
Right.
say we are using the ICT technologies, then you can include that how this ICT technology improved the connectivity with the poor people and how can it be useful for the fulfillment of the objectives of the Darshak, something like that. Otherwise, paper is good, nice.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Komal. Thank you. It was a very good presentation. We'll move forward. So we have our next presenter, Neera Chaudhary. I'm unmuting you. Yes, Neera Chaudhary.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Are you audible?
Yes, yes, yes. Please begin with the presentation, ma'am. Hello.
No.
Yes, please begin.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Neera, you have 8 minutes to complete your presentation. So you need to go according to the time, yeah? Neera?
Good afternoon, everyone. My topic of the presentation is a novel ontology design and comparative analysis of various retrieval schemes on education domain in proteins. In this paper, I have designed a ontology on education domain and have analyzed the result of retrieval through various protease tools that are Sparkle, DL query, DL query and ontograph query. So content of the presentation are abstract, introduction, designing proposed ontology, ontology analysis, empirical results, conclusion and future scope and references. So as we all are well aware that World Wide Web is developing day by day, as and as we can see that due to COVID-19 pandemic, most of the physical schedules have moved to digital mode. This came into existence only with the help of internet. As the use of internet is increasing, the World Wide Web is developing. There is huge amount of information that is available on the web, and it is due to that huge amount of information, it is very difficult to retrieve the relevant result from the World Wide Web. So we came up with the concept of semantic web. It is the extended version of World Wide Web. And in semantic web, the data is available in the form of ontology, and ontology is the linked data. As the time passes, the world is changing and technologies are developing in the same way. The computers are isolated first of all and now have moved to networks. And in this paper, we have explained the proposed ontology in education domain. Semantic web is an XML application whose prime objective is to develop and make the present web more semantically richer. AI researcher communities have investigated that ontology has become a thrust area of semantic web research that helps to provide hello Hello.
Yeah, you are audible. Continue.
Okay. That helps to provide shared and common understanding of some specific domain and make deliberate communication between pupil and application system. This reason made ontology more popular. With the help of semantic web, we can search meaningful data from the available information that are present on the web. So now designing how we can design a proposed ontology. To design the proposed ontology, we have made use of Proteus tool. With the help of Proteus tool, we have designed a ontology on the domain education. Designing an ontology depends on various components such as class, subclass, individuals, attributes, relations, functions, and restriction terms. The common ontology engineering methodology contains several steps mentioned below. That are step 1, selection of the domain. With the help of this, we can select a particular domain of which we want to make that particular ontology, as we have selected the domain of education. Then step 2, define the classes and subclasses related to that particular domain. Then define the properties that are object and data properties. Then we can define the individual instances of each of the object, make relationship among classes and subclasses. This is only a part of our ontology that we have designed. Right now, this right now the diagram that you are seeing on the screen is a part of our ontology. It is not the whole ontology because it won't be possible for me to take the screenshot of whole ontology. It is only a part of it. Now, how we have designed this is the overall ontology analysis of our ontology, that is object property. We have set the various object properties based on domain range and data property. Domain, like domain, we can say, first of all, let me describe the data property. Data property are course. The student will enroll in various institutes and they can enroll in various courses. Then employee, there are various employee working in different organizations of institute and university. Their employee number, faculty contact number, faculty department, faculty designation, faculty name, then student address, student contact, student name, student serial number, student subject. Now, how we have said, how we have relate them with each other, like a student are linked to school, colleges, universities. In the same way, students are enrolled in various courses and courses, then faculties, education, syllabus, organizations. So they all are interlinked through a relationship, and relationship have been established with the help of domain and range. Like students are admitted in school, university, and colleges. These are the range, and these are the relationship between domain and range, that is admitted in. The student is admitted in school, college, university. In the same way, faculty belongs to a particular department. In the same way, student registered in various courses, a student is studying various subjects. So these are the properties that tells the relation with each other. Then these are the ontology matrices. The ontology that we have created. This is the matrices of the ontology that we have created, and it tells that axiom, logical axiom, class count, object property, data property, individual. Class axiom are used almost 50.717%. Logical axioms are used 25.41%. Class count is used 15.84%. Object property is 1.82%. Data property is 1.82%, and individuals are 4.95%. Now, these are the empirical results that we have calculated from these are the empirical results that we have calculated from our ontology. We have, with the help of query, we have calculated various results from different query languages. Basically, we have used three query languages, that is Ontograph query language, DL query language and Sparkle query language. Ontograph query language, we have used these 6 search terms, or we can say that these 6 search keywords. With the help of these 6 search keywords, we have searched in our ontology and ontograph, and these are the 5 criteria ontograph searching criteria, and with the help of these searching criteria, we have searched these keywords in our ontology. First of all, suppose I am searching student keyword in my ontology with the help of ontograph query tool, and the criteria is contained. Then we will see that how in our ontology how many statements contain student
Sorry
keywords.
for the
So
interruption, Neera. You need to conclude with your remarks now. You just have a minute left.
this is the overall analysis of our result. We have concluded that Sparkle query gives better result than ontograph and DI query. That is because Sparkle calculates based on object and subject predicate. Hello.
Yeah, continue.
Hello.
Yeah, we are getting your voice. You can continue.
Okay, sir. So we have concluded that Sparkle gives the better result than DI and ontograph query, because Sparkle gives the less result, and that are relevant results, as it relates them with the help of subject and object properties.
Okay, it's fine. Can you tell me what was your objective of the paper?
So our objective of the paper was to we are trying to make a ranking formula, like, as you know that search engine is based on is performing 3 to 4 functions, that is scrolling, indexing, and ranking. So we are working on ranking. So before ranking, we should compare the various retrieval schemes. So we have in this paper we have compared the various
Okay, that's
retrieval
fine. That's
schemes on
fine. That's fine.
semantic web.
Now you are showing the results directly. So can you tell me about the experimental setup of your experiments?
So please pardon once again.
Your experimental setup, like you are showing the results directly. What was
Yes.
your experimental setup?
So we have worked on
Like
proteins.
which simulator you have used? Have you used
Yes,
some
yes.
simulator or you have done some coding? What did you do?
So we have done coding in Proteus tool. Basically, to design an ontology, the tool that is used is Proteus.
Any
So we have
ontological
worked on.
tools are already available. You must have used those tools, ne?
Yes, we have used
Or you develop
Proteus.
your own tool, because developing own tool is a
No.
task, very big task.
No, we don't have developed our own tool. We have worked on the that is already developed tools, that is
So
Proteus
which
tool.
tool you have worked on? Which tool you have worked upon?
Proteus.
Okay. So whenever we write any research paper, you just you have to justify that why you have chosen that particular tool only. So you must have gone through some literature review. So what was your base paper in the literature review?
So there was a paper that is written by
Doesn't matter who written the paper. You just write the conclusion of the paper. What was there in the paper?
There was a paper that was written on 4th November, that is Sanjan and Akshay Verma. They have developed the ontology for smart hospital.
You know, this paper is 10 years back, 2010.
Yes,
So you
and
are
now
doing
also
research
on
in 2020. So you
yes,
just
sir.
concentrate on the latest. Fine.
मैं पूरी फाइल शेयर कर रहा हूँ सर आपको एक एक्सेल शीट एक पूरी एक्सेल फाइल शेयर
Thank you for the presentation, Neera. Our next presenter is Mohammad Hassan. I'm unmuting you. Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yeah, please start with the presentation. This paper is on survey on advanced spectrum sharing using cognitive radio technique. Yes, please begin.
You see my
Yes,
screen?
yes.
Yes, we are able to see your screen. You
Okay,
can continue.
good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank you to give me this chance to present my paper. My paper titled Survey on Advanced Spectrum Sharing Using Cognitive Radio Technique
Which country you are from?
from Sudan.
From Sudan. Most
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you, sir. The problem of statement that focus in my paper generation of 5 wireless communication relies on increased bandwidth and less latency, which has been achieved by develop and adding a new technologies to decide a channel. The problem is that develop and restrict by a limited spectrum band and spectrum resources allocation policies have some limitation on how to find advanced spectrum sharing using CR. The objective of my paper, looking for methodology, method and techniques that makes the most of all the spectrum resources, survey of improve the efficiency of the spectrum, study and combine with the non-orthogonal multi-axis NOMA in 5G and their effect on satellite communication. Methodology that's used in this paper, description methodology was used to analyze the main function of the method using to improve the spectrum band. Method of spectrum algorithm survey the effect of these techniques when combined with NOMA and effect on improving the performance on satellite communication. Background or introduction of network, mobile network. We're talking about first generation use technique of FDMA. The maximum speed is 2.4 kilobit per second. The second generation use TDMA. The speed is 144 kilobit per second. The third G use CDMA and web browser, email, video download, photo sharing, smartphone technique are possible in Sergey. The 4G aims to give a user high speed and high quality and high capacity while enhance security and reducing the rate of the speed. Here we use OFDM, orthogonal frequency division multi-axis, and the maximum speed is approximately 1 gigabit per second. The 5G, the target, the maximum bandwidth is between 5 and 10 gigabit per second. Use NOMA, non-orthogonal multi-axis, radio access technology. The 5G is while improving a channel and field other techniques such as IoT and all technology focus to increase the performance and reducing latency using or via 5G. The cognitive radio concept or definition was defined as an intelligent communication technique that known as the surrounding considerable and use a method for awareness by making it possible to improve from atmosphere and adjacent its internal case to inspire statistical different with the incoming radio frequency by making a corresponding adjustment to the work parameter in real time. Attribute of a cognitive radio that is classified in two groups. The first group, cognitive capability, that's potential to identify the dominated domain by utilize specialized technique on the radio spectrum and test a correct parameter. The CR jobs are often referred to all the cognitive procedure have three keys phases: observe spectrum, spectrum analyze or analytic, spectrum resolution. This is three key. Observe, trying to gathering or collect information, spectrum analytic, frequency observation and evolution of a signal spectrum resolution. Select the best possible fixed line contact channel. The second group is reconfiguration option. Its ability the evolution a channel or operation parameter during radio operating without any combined modulation of the equipment. The parameter of reconfiguration is frequency use, switch methodology, energy transfer, technology of communication. The CR function, spectrum sensing, spectrum management, spectrum division, spectrum movement. Spectrum sharing. This CR technology allows the reuse if important resources in the spectrum without alternating the existing policy. The CRK concept of ensure spectrum allocation by dynamic access to the spectrum, so second user or secondary user can use ideal spectrum of primary user. The distribution of spectrum usually takes 4 steps: the detection, all distribution of spectrum, access type of spectrum, and hand off spectrum. These are details, some details about detection of spectrum. The first procedure include a collection of information on the variable spectrum frequency band, the primary use of existing band, and the finding of spectrum gaps. It's include a various. Yes. Sir, you hear me?
Yeah, you can continue. You can hear.
Okay, thank you. It includes various techniques like detection of power, detection of characteristic, and so on. It can divide on. It can be divided into white and gray and black region. The secondary user can use only gray and white region. Provide example provide example of the approach through the greater development in the real wireless communication. And this example, the first non-cognitive sensor frequency full duplex database, cognitive, and spectrum of compressing. There's a different.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. I think you have just explaining about the types of spectrum and how the spectrum can be shared. Okay. But as per your research objective, what is your role? What will you do with all these spectrums and all these types of spectrums? Like, what is the objective of your research?
Looking for the best solution, and this is my conclusion. I'll give you the conclusion.
Fine. So if you are going to looking for the best solution,
okay,
then what is your conclusion?
What
is your conclusion?
The cognitive radio is the best way to solve the issue of limited frequency. The CR technique is an example of a paradigm that enables the frequency band to be utilized by secondary consumer and in a proactive way by detecting the unused frequency spectrum, sometimes known as string gaps. One of the
Okay, fine. You told that cognitive radio is the best ways to solve the issues of limited frequency. So yes. How can you say it is the best way?
Because
what are the parameters?
Because the Federal Communication Board in USA make a survey. During this survey, the statistical find the frequency not used efficiently.
Fine. Have you done some analysis? Have you done some analysis?
No, I don't.
Like if you are telling something is the best, So how
Yes.
can we say something is the best? Either you have gone through some existing studies which have been done by the other researchers, and based on
Yes,
those
yes,
studies,
yes,
you can
yes.
make your conclusion.
Yes,
So
I read I wrote a lot of paper about the same thing, and I
so
show
can you refer? Can you suggest one or two papers out of them?
yes in my reference.
Like what paper you want to refer right now?
This cognitive radio spectrum sensing and survey
Okay.
international confidence. This is very nice, very nice paper, and
Mhm.
and
I think you should. What I suggest you.
this also full spectrum sharing in cognitive radio network. This also a survey.
Fine.
This also is very nice, very nice, very nice.
Okay, let me suggest something more. Like what you
Okay.
should do, you should select 4-5 good papers, and based on those good papers, you should make some parameters. And out
Yes.
of those parameters, you should make your analysis. And after the
Yes.
analysis, only you can say which is best or which is worst. Sometimes it can be best in some parameters, but on the other parameters, it cannot do good things. So you should do your survey based on some parameters. And how did you select the parameters? When you go through some good 5-6 good papers. Okay, so in the next time you can revise your paper with some good analysis and good reports of the existing studies. Okay, otherwise it's very nice. Congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Also, I need in future to make combination between NOMA and CR. What you give me your idea in this field? It's okay or not?
Yeah, no, you can go definitely, but you should select some good papers on your particular area, and then only you will be able to make some ideas out of those papers.
Okay.
Just go and read the existing papers.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Same ideas.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for the
okay, thank you.
presentation.
You've done a very
so much.
nice work, hard work. Very
Okay,
nice.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mohammed Hassan. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
So our next presenter is Venkadeshan. I've unmuted you. Yes, are you able
Yes.
to hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Start.
Hope everyone hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Please speak.
Just. Is it visible, sir?
It's coming. Yeah, visible.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Fine. Thank you. Very good afternoon, one and all. Myself, Dr. Venkatesan, working as professor and research in Business College of Technology, Sultanate of Oman. My co-author is Ms. Jagada M, working as assistant professor, Chettinad College of Engineering and Technology, India. Our paper is on survey of Internet of Things, its protocol stack, communication model, and its challenges, and its security and privacy issues, and finally, it's end up with some of the recommendations for overcoming security and privacy issues. Let me start my presentation, sir. Okay. Hope everyone hear it, right? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. And about this presentation, the outline of my presentation is starts with abstract and followed by the protocol stack and some of the security issues and challenges and principles and measures to be carried out to meet out these security challenges, and end up with some security recommendations. As I told you, this is a survey paper. We have collected some of the parameters which is to be focused for the upcoming research areas. Okay, and conclusion and reference. Start with the abstract. As we all knowing it in recent years, that Internet of Things is having a vital role in the research and also in the industry sides. It has been applied in nook and every corner of our lives. It's connected with the things which are being connected with the internet through wired and wireless media, and making data transmissions and exchanges between one another with the minimal human interaction. In this paper, we actually focuses on that protocol stacks of IoT architectures and security and privacy risks, and what are the open challenges available to focus on it, and a few of the recommendations which has been carried out by some of the research papers so far, and we have concluded with our recommendations for providing the security for the IoT applications and development. There are plenty of architectures available based on different domains and different uh, models. And here I have taken a simple architecture which used to combine all the layers of networks. So protocol stacks, which is just an extension of TCP/IP, very famous protocol layer model, and it starts with the physical data link and network layer and transport and application layers. And through this, we all know that TCP/IP is for internet communication. And for this IoT protocol stack, which is used to make these constrained devices to communicate with the internet and working with the network, and which this network is going to have a low energy communication environment with the support of IoT applications to provide it to the end users, and through which they can make a communication between one another. And here I have listed some of the protocols. There are plenty of protocols available in application layers and all the other layers also. Here I have highlighted some of the important protocols. And this is a brief about each layers. And data link and the physical layer, which is grouped as a perception layers later on. And here, which is deals with the devices, which is connected with the environment to sense the data from it, and which will be thrown to the network. And from the network, it will be given to the user interface with the support of cloud service. So here I have taken the IEEE 802.15.4 for the MAC and physical, which is deals with wired and also wireless. But most probably nowadays we are looking for wireless technology, and this layer is supporting whatever now we are using, like cellular networks like 3G, 4G, now it's 5G, and Zigbee, wireless HART. Or these are the very famous protocols and technology which is supporting these layers. And this is very low rate wireless personal area network, which is a very famous technology supporting these layers in the IoT protocol stack. And coming to the network layer, as I told you, there are plenty of protocols available to support IoT in terms of network layer. Here I have given the 6 low PAN, which is IP version 6 over low power wireless personal area network, and some other protocols like RPL and the CARP, which RPL stands for routing protocol for low power, because these IoT deals always with the tiny devices, small devices, which is low power, and which is maximum we are looking for the wireless devices to control over from anywhere, any places. Okay, and regarding the transport layers, we know that two major protocols playing vital role in the transport layer, TCP and UDP. Here I have given with the connectionless UDP for making this IoT protocol more best effort technology, which transfer your sensor data between the network to the cloud service, and application which is deals with the user side, which is providing the services to the user side, which is going to enable the interoperability between the web architectures by using plenty of the protocols available in application layer for supporting the IoT technologies like MQTT, message queuing, telemetry transport, and SCOPE, which is constrained power constraint, or power that deals with power constraint and energy constraint, which is constraint of protocol, and representation of stateful HTTP, HTTPS, and SMQTT. There are plenty of protocols which are supporting this IoT. As another famous model, which we grouped these layers into 3 layers, which is a perception layer. This is a specific to the IoT protocol stack. This is which is a little bit similar to the TCP model. But when you go in specific for the IoT protocol stack, these 3 are playing vital role, which is actually perception layer and network layer and application layer. Perception layer is the actual where the sensors are going to be deployed and collecting your data. And network layer, which is actually the edge computing taken place, which is going to be the local processing elements and local storage things, and where it will redirect your data to be communicated. And application layer, which is going to provide the services to the user side with the support of some GUI, graphical user interface. Coming to the main topic of this paper, which is deals with the security aspects of IoT. As we all know that these are all the devices which is very small in size, and which are going to play a vital role in terms of collecting data from the environment. We actually living in an environment where all the devices are able to connect with the internet and start sending a data from the environment. Like if you take a smart TV, smart watch, smart air conditioner, even a food wears, which will count and which will start sensing your data. So when
sorry for the interruption. You just have 2 minutes left. You need
Yes.
to conclude faster, yeah?
Okay.
Thank you.
So these IoT security focus on two things in terms of device and information. So hardware based and the data based. So these are all the challenges which we have taken to be considered for the IoT security areas, which is for the testing and updating the softwares and also the device hardware part of it. And as we all know that there are plenty of devices that will be a untrustworthy communication between the trusted devices and with the untrusted devices which may be entered into. And data security and privacy, because different devices is going to take part in this topology or network architecture, which depends mobile, web, and cloud. So we have to take care of different securities and privacy concerns. And it is going to provide the services. So there are so many attacks available for DDoS attacks, and this is a more vulnerable attack, which is advanced persistent threats, which we came across, which is like exist in your network, but we don't know about it. They are actually sensing your valuable data in the edge computing itself, that is local storage itself. And it is available 24/7 from anywhere, any device. So we can sorry. And the last one is eavesdropping, which is a silent killer of your network. And this is the security principles which we are suggesting to overcome, and which we have to take care more, which is to secure your devices, some intelligent and edge processing methods and a secure way of communication. And if once your data starts sending to over the internet clouds, you have to secure using the protocol supports. We have to make it more security by identification and authentication encryption. And this security is not going to take part in one phase; it is part in all over your life cycle. And these are all the measures which we have calculated. So first we have to make our local network to be strong. So aggressive edge is going to make your network, which is like DHCP DNS server side and your firewall side, which is going to be more secure. And it is highly scalable environment. So you have to account how much it is scalable and how much it is secure to enhance your scalability. And falsehood, when your data is going to the internet, you have to be very careful that many autonomous systems are running in the internet to feed your false information into your existing database in a cloud. So system isolation, you have to isolate the system without affecting your overall performance.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. So what is your conclusion of the paper?
Sir, actually here we have studied some of the security breaches which is actually disturbing this IoT architectures in 100% implementations. And though we are using multiple devices now, but it is highly vulnerable and exposed to the security breaches. So we have analyzed some of the key areas, and we have here given some recommendations to overcome. That is what this is a survey paper. Later on, actually, my co-author is working on her research, so she will take care of that part.
Because to understand IoT in a better way, you should make some experimental setup also.
Yes,
and
yes,
then only you'll
actually,
be able to know what is the actual things.
exactly, sir. Exactly. Actually, just now she started.
IoT means all practical, Internet of
Yes,
Things.
yes, yes, yes. It's,
Yeah, but if
see,
we don't do any practicals, we don't make any experimental setup, then
yes.
theoretically there are so many things you can get from the internet, but until you do with your own, you cannot get good research.
Yes, sir. As you know that
Just
the research, the
try
best
to make some
research.
experimental setups.
Exactly, sir. As you know that the best research starts with the analysis and related work surveys and also. Okay, this is just a survey paper. Even now, I am working on some of the industry projects
And
also.
let me give one more suggestion also. In the survey
Yes.
paper also,
Okay.
before doing your survey, just get some papers and then
Okay.
make some parameters. Like
Okay.
these are the 4 or 5 parameters on
Okay.
which I want to make my survey.
Okay.
And to get those parameters also, you need to do some good literature survey. Okay.
Sure.
So just try to get some 20-25 good papers, download those papers, and out of those papers you make some parameters, and based on those parameters you do your survey.
Yeah.
Then your survey will come with some good outcomes.
Yes.
Okay. Otherwise the work is nice, satisfactory. Congratulations.
Fine. Fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venkatesh, for your presentation.
Thank you very much for giving.
So we have our next presenter, Rudra Pratap Singh Tomar. I have unmuted you.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes. You can begin with the presentation.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, please.
You're able to see it?
Yes. It is visible and audible as well. Yeah, you can begin.
So this is our
Just
topic.
take concern that you need to come in within 8 minutes, yeah? So focus on your main topics instead
Okay.
of reading out the whole presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
This is our topic. Follow me. It is a human following robot which we are using Wi-Fi, receive signal strength indicator, or we can say RSSI values to communicate with the robot. Basic outline of my presentation. Um, Moving on to the introduction, as human-computer interaction is the next thing in coming days, so we are providing the uh, we are providing a technology which will be used as like for carrying our loads and goods and without even touching or without even any human effort. So we are reducing here the human effort by making making this robot. Robot will be following a hotspot device, and that hotspot device will be like our mobile phones and something like this, which will send the Wi-Fi signals to the robot. So it is a very low-cost prototype which we have made, and RSSI values of Wi-Fi is used as a triangulation method. In this triangulation method, we have set up two Wi-Fi signal receivers. We have used Node MCU here, and these two Node MCUs will be placed on the left side and right side of the robot, and the mobile will be sending the Wi-Fi signals, and based on these Wi-Fi signals, the RSSI values will be calculated in both the Node MCUs, and by seeing the RSSI values of both, we are deciding that how the robot should be acted. That I will explain in next. So the basic objective of develop a human following robot, which we are calling HFR, which will receive the RSSI values and will follow the human motion, and means in which direction the humans are going, it can follow that. So here is our methodology. As you can see in the right side of the right side, the diagram shows the methodology. Like we are putting a mobile phone which will be sending the Wi-Fi signals, and there are two modules, left Wi-Fi module and right Wi-Fi module. They will be receiving the Wi-Fi signals, and they will be calculating the RSSI value, and the RSSI, based on that RSSI value, the microcontroller will be giving instructions to the motor driver, and based on that, motor driver will be controlling the motors. So if suppose we are getting a RSI value in left module less than the RSI value of the right module, so it says that left module is far than the right module. So the robot should be turned right so that both will get the same RSI value, and then once they get the same RSI value, then the robot will move forward. So this is I explained, and this is a basic workflow diagram. Here the hotspot device will be sending the Wi-Fi signals to the Wi-Fi module, and upon receiving the Wi-Fi signals, we are calculating the RSI values and we'll send this to the microcontroller. Here we are using Arduino Uno board for as our microcontroller, and here the conditions are like left ln is left node value, rn is right node value, and threshold is the value like we have to stop our robo at a certain distance from the human, so that it won't like just go forward and forward and forward, and it has to stop at a certain distance. So threshold is deciding that certain distance. So if ln is equals to rn and it is less than threshold, means both are equal and it is far than the desired distance, so the robot will come forward. And similarly, when ln equals to rn and it is greater than threshold, means robot is slower than the desired distance, so it should go backward. So this shows that robot should go backward, and when right node value is less than left node value and it is less threshold, the robot will turn left. And similarly, when left node is less than right node, the robot will turn right. And once we achieve the value, when left node and right node are equal and it is equal to threshold, it should stop. So based on these decisions, the motor driver will act and the car movement will be decided by the microcontroller. So these are algorithm one which we are using in Arduino for the controlling of the movement. COUNTL is the RSI value of left node. Counter is the RSI value of the right node, and these are the abstraction that I explained earlier, like when left node is having less value, then it will rotate right, and when left node is having high value, it will rotate left, and when both are equal and it is less than threshold, then we'll move forward, and when both are greater than equal to threshold, then it should stop. So, and this is a second algorithm which will be in the Node MCU. So, Node, what we are doing with Node MCU, we are first connecting to the Wi-Fi signals, means the hotspot device which we are using. Then it will record the RSSI values. Then we are storing that RSSI value in a JBuffer object, and then this object is transferred to Arduino using the serial communication. And this is our implementation part. First, we have calculated the RSI value of left node and right node and observed the RSI value. Means the RSI values are always negative, it is less than 0. And here is the condition that if the left node RSI value is smaller than the right node RSI value, means the hotspot is closer to the right node and away from the left node. So in this case, the robot should turn right side so that both will come in the same level, and then we'll move forward. Similarly, when the right node is smaller than the left node, and which means that hotspot is closer to the left node and away from the right node. Sorry, this is a mistake here. And so in this case, the robo will turn left. And then we have observed that the distance increases, the RSI value is decreasing, and after this we have plotted a bar graph which shows the displacement and the RSI value. For that we have calculated the displacement as under root of x square plus y square, where x and y are the coordinates of hotspot, considering the center as HFR, means our human falling robot. So these are the observed values. The center column was the 0, means 0, 0 is the origin where we have put it as HSR, and then when we came 15 meters left and then 28 centimeters, and similarly we have calculated the left node and right node values everywhere. And using this we have calculated our displacement. So using that displacement we have plotted this bar graph where we are showing the left node and right node values depending on the displacement of the robot. So this is our model. This is how our robot looks like. As you can see in the front, there are two node MCUs on the left side and the right side. They are receiving the Wi-Fi signals, and they will be calculating the RSI values, and they are transferred to the Arduino. And Arduino is connected to a motor driver and a battery for power. So using these values, we are controlling our robot. So this was the side view, and this is our top view of the robot. So our conclusion was.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Can you come on the slide number 8? Slide number 8. There was a graph you were showing there.
Yes. Slide number 8 is this one, sir. Bar graph.
Just before this. No. There was the graph. Yeah, this one.
Okay.
So yeah, this displacement is like left or displacement is there, or what is this?
Sir, we have divided. Actually, this was created using the table we have drawn. In this,
In the left and right, both side displacements are almost equal.
yes.
So
Sir.
can you explain this how it is there?
Yeah, I am explaining this. If you consider this table, the origin is 0, as you can see. That is the origin.
Yes.
Now, the left portion of the table, we are making it as a negative displacement, and the right side of the table, we are making it as a positive displacement. So based on that, we have plotted our left node and right node. As you can see.
But I think in the table you are mentioning all the values as negative values.
Yes, sir. All the values are negative. As you can see on the left side, they are negative values.
Okay, fine. They all are in the negative side.
Yes.
Fine.
So
Okay, go ahead.
You can conclude with the presentation now.
yes. So our basic conclusion was that it is a very low. We are making a human falling robot using low cost component, and we have implemented it successfully. And second is we propose HFR follows the direction in which human or the mobile goes. So it works fine. And these are the references that we use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, as per your own observation, what are the limitations of your paper
Actually,
which you want to improve in the next time?
there was a slight in means if I can explain you here.
I think
In
you
this
can
table,
make your voice somewhat louder.
hello, am I audible, sir?
Yes. Audible,
Yes.
but make it loud.
Okay. So in this observation, when we were observing it, means this was a real world experiment. So the RSSI values, once we move further from the robot, the RSI values were fluctuating, means they were a bit different. Means if you can see in the right side corner, the last four blocks of the right corner, there the
Okay,
RSI
fine,
value,
fine.
yeah. So
We have limited time, so we should move forward.
okay.
The work is good now, but you can improve it. No problem.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank
presentation.
Okay, madam.
Pramod.
you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
So we'll move on with the next presentation. Our next presenter is Govind Paul. I have unmuted you. You can begin with the presentation. Able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Can
Hello.
Voice is not audible.
yeah, increase your voice, please.
Hey, can you hear me?
Now we
Hello?
can hear you.
Yeah, okay. I'll share my screen.
Present your slide, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my slide? Hello, sir.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, all. I'm Govind Pole.
Your voice.
Yeah.
Please make your voice a little bit louder.
Yeah. Can you hear me right now, sir?
Now we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. My paper title is Cluster-Based Ensemble using Distributed Clustering Approach for Large Categorical Data. My co-author is Dr. Pradipini Gera. The outline of my presentation is the first I'll give you introduction, then motivation, approaches for the problem solving, then literature survey, objectives, proposed system, and conclusion. So first I'll introduce the system. The modern data analytic
Just keep your mic near the mouth so that it's a
Okay.
bit louder, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, not that louder.
Yeah, okay. The modern data analytic approaches suffers through
No,
the
no,
various...
we are not able to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me right now?
A bit
Yeah.
louder, please.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, the modern data analytics approaches suffers through the various challenges when dealing with the large data sets. These are the qualitative and quantitative degradations in the decision-making process. There is a need of efficient analytic system that can handle the large and diverse data sets with increased accuracy in the data analysis. So here we are proposing a model for the cluster-based ensemble system, which is proposed to run on the commodity machines using the hierarchical approach. The commodity machines create the cluster-based ensemble in a distributed environment using a popular data mining algorithm. So the main motivation for doing this is to find out the outliers. For finding out the outliers, we are doing the clustering classification or we are doing the experimentation. So basically, the outlier detection is a problem of finding the abnormal instances in the data. Practically, it's a task of dividing the data into or classification of the data into the separate groups. So such that where to find out the abnormal instances. So for this purpose, we can go for various approaches like supervised approach, unsupervised approach, semi-supervised approach. So here I'm using a blend of supervised as well as unsupervised, that is a semi-supervised approach. So I've gone through various papers. These are the two prominent papers which I wanted to mention adaptive semi-supervised classifier ensemble for high dimensional data classification. It uses the feature selection method, and second is the auxiliary training set where very less data is available for the data generation. Then the second method uses the bagging and the boosting principles. So here the bagging as well as the boosting, they are used, the strength of the bagging as well as boosting is used, and second, the partitions are iteratively generated. Same thing I have used. So this is my proposed system. In the proposed system, I'm using an ensemble K-mode algorithm for the categorical data where no general measure is available to classify the data like the numerical data. For example, for the digits 1 and 5, we can find out the distance. But if we want to find the distance between the red and blue, it's very difficult. So my motive is to work on such data, categorical data. Then I'll be using the hierarchical approach for parallel and systematic processing. And third, I'll be using the ensemble approach, ensemble for optimization of the clustering process. So this is the main crux of this paper. It computes the internal validity indices for the cluster results and corresponding compactness score. So what is internal validity index? The results are calculated based on when we don't have any knowledge about the data, or we don't have any perception about the data, like our external validity indices like the compactness score or the purity. So for this process, basically 3 methods are used, or 3 steps we can say. The consensus cluster, here we run the consensus clustering across the subsamples of the data, clustering algorithms and the clusters, different cluster sizes. Then in the next step, we combine the results from the multiple objects in the previous step, that is the consensus cluster formation, and we create the consensus matrix. In the third state is the evaluation state, where based upon the internal and external indices, we are selecting the best performing algorithms. In this step, suppose the five algorithms have taken part in the algorithm in the ensemble process, and only 3 are best performing, then 2 are trimmed and only 3 will be used for the further processing. The algorithms are assigned weight before they are used in the consensus function, and they also augment the incremental member selection. The incremental member selection means if you want, we can, if we are using 5 initial cluster member selection members, then we can add 2-3 more if you want. This is the prototype for the hierarchically distributed approach. Here you can see that at a lower level, there are local machines or the commodity machines or the normal machines which are doing the clustering task. Then from them, one machine will act as a coordinator in that group, and it will send data to the upper level where you can see in the level 1, there are 4 different 4 coordinators. Same way, hierarchically, when we go up, it's like a hierarchy. It's like a hierarchy of talukas, districts, and countries, continents, like that. So it's a detailed flow. Here, in the first step, the large categorical data set is divided into the multiple subsets, and the individual and distributed to the different machines through the coordinators. The slave can act as a coordinator by further distributing data to a simple machine if needed. Thus, every machine can act as a coordinator and slave. Then the next step is ensemble clustering. Once the data is received by the slave machine, they start the clustering.
Sorry for the interruption, Govind. Instead of reading out the whole presentation, just focus on your main topics.
Okay.
As you have just 2 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you can come on your main contribution and conclusion then.
Okay. These are the dataset we have used, I have used the mushroom datasets from the UCI, where 8124 instances were there, and for the US census datasets, there were more than 24 lakhs instances. These are my results, cluster generation. Here, I have taken a sample of 450 and done the experimentation based upon the samples. These are the results you can see for the different values of the clustering. K equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it's a CELUTI analysis. Basically, I use the CELUTI analysis, which is used to study the separation distance between the resulting clusters, and the CELUTI plots are displayed here. Then you can see the result, the cluster analysis, where the clustering time is shown here. Then the number of the clusters, then the cluster size, within cluster distance. These are the external indices and the compactness scores. Then same I have done with the different. In the previous case, I have done with the same algorithm. Here I have done ensembling with the different algorithms. K means one hot encoding or the K modes, and the results are again discussed on the same parameter, the within cluster distance, and here one new parameter is added, that is the purity of the clusters. Based upon the purity, the compactness and purity are the external indices which are used for selecting the best performing clustering algorithm. Then I also calculated the internal indices where we are not biased, or we don't have a pre-assumption regarding the data. Like here we have used the Calency index, then ppm, David Goldin index, and based upon these indexes, I've done the based upon this value, the best performing algorithms are selected and the poor performing algorithms are trimmed out of the system. So you can see the different internal indices like the connectivity, compactness, CELUTI, plots. Then the applications of this system is they can be used for the use bioinformatics or biological data to find out the abnormalities. For example, when we do the genetic analysis, we can find out the cancerous or the malicious cells. In the social media, to find out the some fake news. These are the applications which can be used. The scope of my research is what I have done. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Govind. Any questions, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Govind.
Yes, sir.
You showed the analysis, but have you also compared your work with the other researchers' work? Similar type of work?
It's not other researchers' work. What I have done, I have
different algorithms.
Yeah, I used the different algorithms, and from them, I'm doing my PhD in my second objective. I will compare algorithms.
Okay.
Here, I will just find out the good ensemble members for optimizing for doing the computation with the other researchers.
Okay, that's fine. You have limited time, so let's others come.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Govind.
Okay,
thank you.
yeah.
Our next presenter is Chetna Chaudhary. I've unmuted you. You can begin with the presentation.
Yes, am I audible to you, sir?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, audible.
Yes, I'll share my screen.
Make sure you complete it on time, yeah?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Is screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, visible.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Chetna, and I'm from Pune, India. And on behalf of my other co-authors, I'm going to present this paper. a model for automated food logging through food recognition and attribute estimation using deep learning. So these are the contents of my presentation. So let's get started. According to the survey conducted by Lancet, it is found that dietary risk is the second biggest factor for death and disabilities. So hence, diet management is very essential. And we studied the many existing applications such as a MyFitnessPal, or you can say S-Health. And we found out that they mainly focus on monitoring the food consumption, and user has to manually put each and every detail about what food they have consumed, which makes the process very repetitive and time consuming. So main goal of our system is to provide a simple and efficient solution for this problem. So the main purpose of the paper is to make a contribution towards diet and health management. So this paper proposes a system which can automatically identify food item from image of a single food item and obtain the nutrients such as the carbohydrates, proteins, as well as ingredients and other attributes contained in a food. It also provides some additional functionalities as mentioned below. So, to work out through this idea, we referred to 24 papers, and within the time span of 2012 to 2020. So, first for food recognition, that is image processing, we found out the different methods like convolutional neural network or transfer learning. Some of the papers can extract a feature map from convolutional neural network, while the one paper we have studied can estimate a calorie and food portion size from images. Again, some of the papers are used to analyze and compare the different techniques which can be used to learn word vectors from large vocabularies. And some papers has taken a completely different approach, like they have used a ready-made API, that is NutritionX API, to extract the features and other things from the food image. So these are the few papers we have referred. So let's look at our methodology. So we have divided our system into two models. So first model is food recognition model. In a food recognition model, the image of a single food item is given as an input to trained convolutional neural network. It will recognize the food item and give a food label as an output. Then the second model is attribute estimation model. So the text data corpus that we have generated is given as an input to word to vec tool, which in result will give you the vector embedding. Now the generated food label and vector embedding is given as an input to attribute estimation model, and which will give you the output, that is nothing but attributes, ingredients, and nutrients contained in a food. So let's take a look at each model in a brief. So the first model is food recognition. So for food recognition, we have used a food 101 data set. It consists of 100 food categories and 1,000 images for each categories. And we have performed some image pre-processing such as image augmentation, rescaling. Again, we have divided a data set into training, testing, and validation data set. Now, this prepared data set is used to train a CNN model. As we know, the larger data set may take as we know that a CNN may take days or week to train on a large data set. So we used a transfer learning approach. So what is a transfer learning? In transfer learning, we use a pre-trained model which are already trained on a larger data sets like a ImageNet, which will be helpful to extract features easily like color, shape, etc. And to increase the performance of our model or to avoid the overfitting, the several techniques are used like batch normalization, regularization, and dropout and adding a dropout layer. Now the second model is attribute estimation. So for attribute estimation, again, we have divided it into two sub-models. In order to get a more accurate results, we decided to generate our own text data corpus. So we have first extracted a text from web pages which are related to the diet or recipe, food, etc. websites. And then some pre-processing is done, such as the removal of HTML tags, the irrelevant words or the stop words are removed. Again, the lemmatization is also performed. Now this generated text corpus is given as an input to word2vec tool. So what is a word2vec tool? Basically, word2vec tool is a shallow neural network, and it will compute a vector embedding from the text corpus. And vector embedding is nothing but a numerical representation of the words, and it establishes semantic relationship between different words by using measures like a cosine distance. And again, this vector embedding can be used to extract the attributes from for the particular food item. So let's take a look at the results and experimentation we have conducted. So for food recognition, we have used a Keras and TensorFlow backend to train convolutional neural network, and we have used a TensorBoard to analyze the performance of a model over the number of epochs. And as I mentioned earlier, we have used a transfer learning. So basically, we experimented with a different pre-trained model, and these are the top 5 performing model, and we found out that Inception ResNet V2, which consists of a total 164 layers, performs well for our dataset, and we were able to achieve the accuracy of 92.40%. For the second model, that is attribute estimation, we have used a Beautiful Soup as a web scraping tool, and we have used a GenSim library to compute a vector embedding from a text corpus. Again, the algorithm that we have used is continuous bag of words, and these are the few parameters which were suitable for our model. After combining combining these two models, you can see the results. When user gives the image of a pizza, the first model will identify the image, and it will give the food label pizza. Again, it will also compute the top 10 ingredients present, attributes as well as the nutrients. Again, this proposed system in our proposed system, we have developed a web application as well as a mobile application, and it is a three. You can see from the diagram that it is a 3-tier architecture, and it runs on a local machine. So for front end, we have used HTML and Bootstrap for web application, and React Native in case of a mobile application. For backend, we are using Flask as a Python framework, where the deep learning models can be directly used as an API. And in order to store the data regarding users and food item, we are using the PostgreSQL as the database. So conclusion, we have designed a system by analyzing users' needs and difficulties, and we wanted to make a contribution to the health and diet management. And as I think that we are making a contribution to sustainable development as well, because there are total 16 goals for this sustainable development, and one of them is the good health and well-being. So and again, for future scope, the system can be upgraded to recognize multiple food items in a single image, and even we can do some improvements by obtaining food attributes based on the portion size of the food items. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Yes, sir. Any questions? So we are not able to hear you, sir. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, fine. Paper was very good, and it's aligned with the theme of the conference also. So if you want to improve the work, whatever you have done so far, so on what parts you would like to improve the work? Like, are there still some limitations which you want to improve in this work? Some quality factors or something like that?
Pardon, sir, can you repeat the question?
How would you improve your work if there are some limitations? Still, if you think if there are some limitations, how would you improve them?
Yes, sir, there are many limitations, like you should be able to estimate calories from it, but the main drawback is you need to have a front view as well as a side view for that photo, which actually brings what we can say limitation for user input. So we would like to improve that. Again, the second thing is you should be able to detect the multiple food items, and it is and even it is possible by using technologies like faster RCNN. These are the some of the things I think we can improve in our model.
Okay, all the best.
Thank you, Chetna.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, our next presenter is Amandeep. I've unmuted you, Amandeep. Amandeep, are you able to hear me? Amandeep.
Amandeep, are you there?
Yes, yes, sir, I'm here.
Yeah, you need to
Okay, you can present your work.
presentation faster, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Just a minute, ma'am, please wait.
Hello.
Hello, yes, ma'am. Just a minute. I'm
Yeah.
just
I
sharing
had
sharing
told
my
you to
screen.
be ready, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any issue? We have to close the meeting, Amandeep. Faster, please.
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. I'm just searching my file.
This is the reason we kept on informing you first.
This is the last presentation?
Yeah, actually, she's from 5A, session 5A. She had missed out, so we are giving her a chance in this session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Namaskar, Amit ji.
Just a minute.
So, good evening, Dr. Rathore.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
Now it's almost, I think all the papers are presented.
Okay.
In all the sessions, oral.
It's almost the closing of the conference.
Okay, great. One more feather in the cap. In the crown, not cap.
So, I think, is the author still there for the last presentation?
Yeah, Amandeep is there. She's, I think, working.
So we are trying to connect her.
Let's give her one more minute to try it.
Yes.
And even if she is not able to share the screen, she can speak.
No, she had some network issue in the session 5A as well. So,
Okay, fine.
yeah, so we are giving her a chance in this session again. Let's. I think she's not available, sir. Hello, Amandeep. Amandeep, I've made you the co-host. You can try now.
Amiji Rajneesh is also here, Rajneesh Chaturvedi.
Okay.
He's also like, he has been listening all the papers for last 1 hour.
Okay. We will acknowledge that. Definitely we will acknowledge.
Deepika madam, I think you can enable his video. Rajneesh Chaturvedi.
Hi everyone. Hello, sir.
Hi everyone. How are you?
Good. Doing great. And
Anish is taking care of all the web part of the IIS University.
Sir,
He's our cloud computing. He's our cloud server.
I think
Deepika, Amandeep is right now live.
left the session.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking
Okay.
after that.
Then let's close it formally, I think.
Yes.
So I would like to thank you, Dr. Vijay Singh Rathod, for chairing
sir.
this valuable session, and it's my deep, heartful thanks, because I understand and believe that sitting for 100 minutes continuously and listening to all the presentations and then commenting on the work of authors, it's really a tedious task, and especially when we have moved digital. Physical conferences would have a different charm, but digitally it would be really difficult to constantly looking at a single screen for more than 100 minutes. Thank you very much for that, and I would like Deepika to just scroll a token of appreciation for Dr. Rathod. So this is for you from our conference team, Dr. Rathod.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much for supporting. We also appreciate the efforts of Dr. Rajneesh, who has been constantly listening and putting up questions, and we will acknowledge him as well in later phase of the time. And second, my thanks are due to all the authors who have presented these papers so effectively. And I personally believe that there is a whole cycle time of 7 to 8 months when a author submits a paper and then finally it gets published. And in between that, there are lots of phases which an author has to pass off. So I congratulate all the authors for presenting their valuable work and trusting this conference so that their work could be published at the right place at the right forum. There are two things I would like to tell you, that we have already sent the data for publication to Springer, and we hope to get it published by in another next 4 months or so. Maybe it can be early, maybe it can be slightly late, but we will definitely do it. And second part is that you will also receive your certificates, your payment receipt, as well as a thank you letter just after this session is over. So I thank you very much once again. And once again, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to one and all who are attending this conference from across the world. Thank you very much. And
thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rathod, once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for coming
See you soon,
at
sir.
that moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thanks, Ms. Deepika also. She has been doing very hard work.
Yes.
For
Thank you,
last 2
Deepika.
days.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Bye, sir.